رضاه أحب لقاه يظل يجيء.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Radio Islam International. You are listening to the program You Are Loved, where we are discussing the topic of narcissism. In studio, we have Zahier Raggie. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Well, we were discussing about the narcissist and his relationship with the codependents. We were just discussing many traits that codependents show, and we were also discussing what the narcissist does to a codependent. And the one thing that we did is that the narcissist will isolate that person from the support system in the family, will forbid them from going to friends and family, check reasons for their partner when stopping them from wearing attractive clothing. Privacy and space does not exist in a vocab, and they brainwash their partners so that they say that they had black magic done on them by those who love them so that they don't go back to them. We also mentioned about narcissists don't like visiting the in-laws. Islamic teachings are commonly distorted by narcissists, and they thrive on control, an indication of themselves, of no confidence in themselves. They're also joy killers, and we discussed some of the common types of punishment, like forbidding them from something they like, silent treatment, hiding important documents, physical abuse, also refusing intimacy, and so forth. Then, towards the end of the program last week, we did about the duties and the importance of a father to his daughter, and right at the end, we discussed about the lady being more intelligent and successful than a man. And we mentioned that there's nothing wrong with a lady being more intelligent and successful than a man. It's actually an asset to him, as she can help him in many of his personal affairs by being knowledgeable and educated enough to raise and teach her children well.
Yes, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We will continue with that discussion on the woman being more intelligent, more successful, and even financially independent. What impact does that have on a relationship? However, there's a few disclaimers that I would like to make, and these are disclaimers that we would repeatedly make. However, sometimes we are, in a way, not able to do so. Firstly, is that we in this program are in no way diagnosing people to be narcissists. I think this is a very important disclaimer. In no way are we diagnosing people to be narcissists. Yes, we are talking of certain traits. Some of these traits could be found in most people. However, that does not make you a narcissist. What is important is that we are discussing these issues is so that people can become aware of some of the disorders, some of the weaknesses in their characters. And these weaknesses in their characters should be identified. You need to be observant of it and make an effort to remedy that. So that's the purpose of these discussions, not that we are any professional psychologists, life coaches, etc. Also, what is very important is that always seek professional help from qualified psychologists, qualified life coaches, qualified counselors. If you see that you have any trait that may result in it being having a negative impact with regards to your relationship. And thirdly, I think this one, I would say, I emphasize on this one is that do not make a judgment call on this program of ours by just listening to one or two of our episodes, because in that way you might be going up a wrong path by making a judgment on this program of ours just by listening to one or two programs and saying that we are saying things that is incorrect. It would be advisable that you listen to the entire program from the beginning. And I think we are already on about 22 or 23 episodes. So there are lots of things that you might have missed out whilst we are discussing what we are discussing. However, Mona, these are certain things that we need to always clarify. And I must say that we appreciate the feedback that has come from some people. And inshallah, we would continue accepting feedback. Continuing from our last program, I would like to emphasize here that there's absolutely nothing wrong with a woman being or choosing to be a housewife. and giving more time to her home and family. This follows from our discussions last week that sometimes there are certain women who have certain professional occupation and they need to fulfill those occupations. And there are occasions where, in this relationship between man and wife, husband and wife, there may be sometimes people or husbands or men that are insisting that the women must be in the home. And I want to emphasize here that there's absolutely nothing wrong. In fact, it's preferable for a woman being or choosing to be a housewife and giving more time to her home and family. In fact, a woman being a housewife is sometimes perhaps more honorable and rewarding with Allah Ta'ala, because raising children, spending time, tending to spiritual life, and looking after herself should always be her priority. All of these are highly rewarding acts that require a lot of effort. However, when a woman feels that she's worked hard to earn her career or a job or a position, again, I repeat, fulfilling the career, doing a job in accordance to her profession, I repeat, maintaining the Shari'i requirements of doing her job or pursuing her career, then there is no fault on her if she feels mistreated or abused, deceived, and she wishes to pursue her career because her husband deceived her before marriage by agreeing to her situation and saying that he would support her in the continuation of her work and the continuation of her career, but is now trying to force and manipulate her with Islam or other things to make her feel guilty to stay at home. And this distinction has to be understood in its correct context. So sometimes before the marriage, you will be promised everything that you may do what you want to do, but once you are married, then you find that things totally change. And many a times, many a people would use Islam as their means of keeping you back. And we need to be able to be aware and understand and differentiate what the purpose here is. If the purpose is absolutely noble, like what I've just said in the beginning, then Alhamdulillah. But if it is just for the purpose of manipulating and control, then we should look at it a little differently. Some people are very quick, and some narcissists are very quick to change their minds or reveal their true intentions regarding what they had agreed to before marriage, soon after you've married them. So they usually agree to something. They usually agree to something they intend on taking away from you when they meet you the first time. And narcissists go for people who are way out of the league. And once they've captured them with their false identity, they need to bring them down once it becomes safe to do so. And when they are stuck in a marriage with them, to make themselves feel better. Now, I'm talking here and I'm going very slowly and I'm really choosing my words so that there is no misrepresentation and misunderstanding of what we are talking. So they need to bring them down once it becomes safe to do so to make themselves feel better. They need to turn it around quickly so that they become the person who's out of the league to have, and they do this by chipping away at the confidence, the self-worth, and achievements of a person in a very subtle way that most people would not even notice until their loved ones mention it to them. They know that once they complete this mission, their victims will see them as being more valuable and successful. And it is the main reason why they are so paranoid, so jealous, insecure, because they know that they are too good for their partners and deserve better. A normal, healthy person feels proud of their spouse's ambitions. They would feel proud of their spouse's achievements and is genuinely happy to have them in their lives. Muslim narcissists who secretly intend to marry women for their money and other financial benefits will often use a very heavy love bombing strategy on them. They know very well that these women aren't in need of them financially, and so they set out to fulfill all their emotional needs and sometimes even their sexual needs as a way of manipulating them to believe that they need these people in their lives to fill a large empty void that they notice in themselves. These women become so happy that when they believe they found and are experiencing true love, and will make special allowances, they will make special compromises that out of the norm would not make, just to accommodate their partner in their lives. For example, now I know I said a lot of things, and many a times it is important to understand what we are saying through an example. So, for example, they may accept that the men are unemployed or have a low paid job when originally they would never have considered men in their situation. And ulama, Muslim scholars, agree that Allah Ta'ala gave men the status of Al-Qawwam, the head of the family, who has a degree of authority over his wife. Now, this is an established fact of Islam. It is an established fact of Islam that is mentioned in the Quran Kareem. Allah Ta'ala has endowed men with a certain position of authority as Qawwam, the head of the family. And one of the primary reasons why it is so is that the men are expected to spend money to feed, to house, to clothe, to educate, and take care of their needs, medical needs, and the needs of the children. This responsibility is that of men. And because Allah Ta'ala has endowed men with this responsibility, they are given this title of Qawwam, the head of the family. However, there are many men there are many men out there who don't want this financial responsibility, and they do not fulfill this financial responsibility. And as a result, will look for women who are financially stable, who are financially independent, and have enough to provide for both of them. And therefore, if a woman becomes the main breadwinner in the family, which we are observing many a homes today, women are becoming more financially independent. Women are becoming the primary breadwinner in the family. And what then happens is such women assume to become entitled to more authority than a man in their family decisions, because the husband and children are now dependent on her for their needs. And this creates a challenge. It creates a major challenge. And what's funny though is that many narcissists cannot accept this, whilst at the same time would take advantage of the supply, both financial and other. With this understanding, they continue to enforce their authority and cultural views on their wives, even when they are dependent on them. And this creates a great challenge, and it is important for both man and wife in a family relationship to be aware of the concept of qawwam, which Allah Ta'ala has endowed on men. And at the same time, the men should take the responsibility of fulfilling that obligation of being qawwam, and not become a person that would just want to take advantage of the financial stability of his partner. This is very important. Now, you find, unfortunately, there may be people and men, and not necessarily that they are narcissists because they do so, but we are talking of certain character traits. So many a times, these types of men don't want to shoulder their responsibilities and fulfill their duties as men, but at the same time, demand the respect and authority of Al Qawwam. Sadly, many Muslim women allow this to happen out of fear, because if they don't, Muslim husbands can become very verbally and sometimes even physically abusive, as it will be the only way they know to regain control of what they perceive to be masculinity. Now, this is important, that somehow there is a feeling of being an underdog in that relationship, and it builds a complex among some men. And in order to establish their masculinity, they would then turn to become verbally or even physically abusive. Women who allow this to happen do so for a number of other reasons as well, that include them wanting to present their husbands to their families and societies as men who are respected, so that others don't belittle them, and also for cultural reasons, as they believe that men are automatically privileged and entitled from birth to hold the power and authority, regardless of whether they've earned it or not. The position of power and authority and qawam that Islam has laid upon men is because of the responsibility that they should shoulder. The responsibility, the financial responsibility, the housing responsibility, the fulfilling of all the various needs. And when men are unable to fulfill those for whatever reasons, they then that sometimes creates a challenge, and there needs to be a sit down, there needs to be a discussion regarding this, so that this imbalance, this unnatural position should be addressed in a way that brings about positive results in the end. Many women may also allow it because they don't know that what their Islamic rights are and what they are entitled to in specific or abnormal situations. And this needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed when you see that. It needs to be addressed promptly, urgently, cautiously, sensitively, because these men may believe that they can always get away with it as long as there are women who are willing to tolerate it, and tolerating it doesn't improve the situation of our men, and it results in broken homes, which has a negative impact in our society. So it's a whole cycle which commences with the men not fulfilling the responsibility of qawwam due to whatever reason. Sometimes it is the will of Allah Ta'ala, but many a times there is just sheer laziness, sheer indifference to fulfilling that responsibility, when some men find themselves in a comfort zone where everything is provided for them by their wives, who are at the time more financially independent. And it makes them much worse. Such men who take advantage of this eventually becomes much worse. Many women who have given up years of their life to support their families financially have noticed that instead of their husbands being grateful and more determined to set up and claim their role as qawwam, unfortunately even become more lazy. And this has a negative impact on the entire family, and the children that are born in such homes learn these traits from their fathers. They lack the motivation to work hard. They lack the motivation to maintain a career, and are often in and out of jobs, which causes their wives to become very frustrated and eventually, unfortunately, lose all respect for them. Deep down, most of these men are incredibly bored. They believe they are pathetic and they envy their wives for being stronger and sometimes, in inverted commas, more masculine than they are, and consciously or subconsciously, they seek to destroy their self esteem in other ways to feel better about themselves. So these men feel that there is something wrong with them, and because they are in a relationship, they would sometimes consciously or even subconsciously seek to destroy the self-esteem of their partners in ways to feel better about themselves. This part is something that we need to be always cognizant of. And there should be a way by which, if you are in a situation that I'm describing, you should be sitting down, you should be discussing this in a very matured, sensible way with each other so that it does not have negative effects in your relationship. Some men will do this by having an affair. Some men will even do things in order to establish their own self esteem, which they are losing in their own home, have an affair, or even secretly take a second wife, even when they can't afford to do so. And there are examples that I have seen and witnessed, and there are examples of people that I have encountered that what I'm saying now and what I'm talking about is genuine. This happens. So when there is this type of a relationship, which I would call it a toxic relationship, when the husband feels insecure because he is no more being the primary breadwinner, and in order to establish his own self-respect and self-esteem, many a times they then have an affair secretly, or even sometimes want to take a second wife in spite of not being able to afford to do so. And they do that to feel somewhat masculine and even powerful again. And what's more shocking and appalling about this is that in some cases, and I'm saying this again out of experience, and I've come across some people who have mentioned this, and we were able to address some of these issues. In some cases, uh, the second marriage, unfortunately, unknowingly, is being financed by the first wife when she gives her husband some loans he needs to, for example, start a business or help some relatives. So, as women and men, we should be aware of these things. In some cases, the second marriage is funded by money that the husband has secretly saved for himself since before the marriage or during it. Some men will have low paid jobs. I know some of our men will be angry with me today, Morana, but I think these are ills in our society and we need to talk about these things just so that people are aware of what can be happen and what are the dangers of these situations. And the primary purpose and objective of this discussion is to save our homes from these unnatural relationships. So, in some cases, the second marriage is funded by money that the husband has secretly saved for himself. Some men will have, example, low-paid jobs, and there's nothing to be embarrassed about that. But they don't spend their money on their families because they don't disclose how much they earn or how much they've saved. And so, while their wives are paying for the biggest chunk of the household expense, they are able to save their own money, spend it on themselves, and unfortunately on another woman later on or during they are in the relationship with their wives, sometimes unfortunately illegitimately. And this tends to be the straw that breaks the camel's back when their wives find out, and then you find that all hell breaks loose, it goes into divorce, etc.
Gee, Ma, we also find that it so happens that sometimes a wife becomes the breadwinner in homes that have narcissist husbands. So we were mentioning that they are the breadwinner, and these are the things that a husband does, but sometimes they're the sole breadwinner.
Yes, yes. And that's the discussion that we are having currently. Now, a wife's request for a divorce, when these things appear and they come to these type of situations from perhaps a useless and ungrateful husband, presents him with a big problem. The husband then faces a big problem that now my supply chain is coming to an end. The wife has found out about me and she's now requesting a divorce. It presents him with a problem if he is not ready to leave because he hasn't secured himself another source of supply. However, these men know that eventually they will get kicked out. It will end up in the marriage not working, and they prepare for it by having a backup in place to run to when that time comes. And these things happen today in our times. And unfortunately, situations in our society are such that it becomes very easily for people to find other sources of supply. Therefore, it's highly important that both men and women are taught about the roles and duties of husband and wives before they get married so that they can avoid these issues. So, again, we are talking about these things so that we are aware, and it's important that both men and women are taught about the roles and duties of husbands and wives before they get married so that these situations are avoided. Turning away men from marriage who aren't able or willing to fulfill their responsibilities will ultimately benefit them because they'll have no other option but to find jobs and work harder in their careers or business so that they can get married and earn their respected role as al qawwam, which the Sharia has given them. Muslim men who aren't narcissists, who depend on their wives financially as a result of them losing their jobs, for example, you will find that they will continue to make every effort. They will make strong efforts to find another job or other income streams while showing mercy and appreciation by helping their wives with children, housework, cooking, and errands. However, narcissistic men who aren't ready to leave a marriage and who don't have a backup source of supply will often resort to using their children to help them out. And this is another very dangerous situation that many families may go through. And again, pre warned is better. So, men who are narcissists and who are taking advantage of the situation of their wives being the breadwinner and don't make any effort to fulfill their responsibility of qawwam and who aren't ready to leave a marriage and who have not have a backup source of supply, they will often resort to using their children to help them out. Marna, you have a question from someone?
Gee, my case has just come in. Assalamu alaikum. I know of a case of a man taking his second wife. By agreement, she had waived the maintenance while his children were at school. His first wife is working. However, when the son started working, the second wife asked him to start paying some amount as the sons now can make their own contributions to the home. The first wife refused, and thus far, over 20 years of his nikah to his second wife, he neither maintains her nor makes time to spend with her, not even on the day of Eid. As a result, the second wife keeps her distance from him as she feels disrespected for his non caring attitude. He also refuses to issue a talaq to the second wife.
So these are just experiences which we are
Mm.
talking of that people are going through. May Allah make it easy, and may Allah give them the understanding of the responsibility and the obligations that each one has, that Sharia has put on them. So we're talking of Marana, men who aren't ready to leave a marriage and don't have a backup source of supply, they will often resort to using children as a pawn to help them out. Now, such fathers, such men, become the fun fathers, I call them
Mm.
the fun fathers, to their young children, because they know very well that if the children are very emotionally attached to them, then their codependent partners will find it hard to end the marriage, because they will find it extremely difficult to sacrifice the children and lose the children. They also know that their partners won't want to risk losing their children in a custody battle, as they know the children are more likely to choose the fun parent to live with. And narcissistic fathers make sure that the mother is the aggressive parent. They have this style of manipulation. They are so smart in the way that they will always make the other partner, and it can work both ways, either by the husband or the wife. In other words, the father will sometimes make the mother the aggressive parent, and sometimes the vice versa. The mother will make the father look as the aggressive parent, who disciplines the children when they are naughty, so that their loyalty lies with their fathers. They give them all sorts of freedoms, flexibilities, flexibilities when their mother isn't around, so that when she's back, she'll face a harder struggle to discipline her children. As the children become more rebellious and increasingly believe that their mothers just want to deprive them of fun, mothers feel forced to use harsher disciplinary actions, which only makes them prefer their fathers even more. Children grow up believing now this situation that may this situation may come up in certain homes, where the manipulation between husband and wife is such that they make the other partner looking aggressive, and the one takes the back seat to become the fun father or mother. uh, Children grow up in that situation believing that their fathers or mothers love them more, but they don't know that they are being used in a toxic manipulative process to keep either the mother or father trapped in the marriage. Unfortunately, the parent who truly loves them is the one who appears to be cruel, heartless, abusive, because he or she has to regularly change the rules and the discipline strategies to fix her established routine that the one partner disrupts when the other is not around. And this can also be the cause for men who are the codependent parents. Narcissistic mothers, on the other hand, may push the boundaries by putting makeup on their children, girls, dressing them inappropriately, for example, which are actions that their husbands don't like or approve of at all. And therefore, to avoid the headaches, narcissistic parents will do what they want behind their partners' backs, which indirectly teaches their children that as long as their mothers and fathers who are trying to protect them don't see the wrong they are doing, then it's fine to do what they like. And therefore, it is so important that mother and father must play a joint role in disciplining children, and it should never be in the way that one wants to win points, because end of the day the battle will be lost with children that will not be children that will be brought up in the correct way. These children will apply this immoral teaching later in their own adult relationships to get away with doing wrong to others. And that's another point that as parents we need to keep in mind, that when we do this with our children, in order to win the battle with our partners, we are developing in our children disorders these children will also apply this very immoral teaching later in their own adult relationships to get away with doing wrong to others. Narcissistic parents are also known to disrespect their partners in front of their children. Disrespecting your partner in front of your children is a trait, it's a disorder, it's a weakness that you display in order to establish your own position as the as whatever you want to call. For example, if their mother says no to something, they will say yes just to annoy her. This is considered, unfortunately, to be the lowest form of psychological abuse. Narcissistic parents are also known to disrespect their partners in front of their children. And I give an example. If their mother says no to something, they will say yes just to annoy the mother. This approach is considered to be the lowest form or the most intensive form of psychological abuse. After they tell their children to do the opposite of what the other parent has told them to do behind their backs. This disrespect can escalate. This disrespect can escalate to verbal abuse in front of the children, and in more extreme cases, even physical abuse. And many a times, these children will also apply the same approach to their mother. They will then show disrespect to the mother. They will also sometimes deal with the mother in the way of treating the mother in an abusive way. Someone is asking, Morana, please speak about how they use the qawam, so you must obey me as a tactic to make women feel obligated to listen. Yes, we have discussed that previously. Jazakumullah for that, sister. But we have discussed that, and that's exactly what we are discussing now. That one is to, we need to just to reflect again and just repeat. The one is that you need, as a man, he has to establish his position as qawwam by fulfilling the responsibilities that are shouldered upon him. And the reasons that we are discussing here is that many a people, many a men, or many a narcissist will use Islamic teachings as their manipulative way of taking authority and control. And we need to be aware, and we need to be able to find the distinction, that is this fulfilling the responsibility of Sharia, or is it just another tactic of showing authority and displaying this disorder? And that's important. So the disrespect can escalate to verbal abuse in front of children, and in more extreme cases, even physical abuse, unfortunately. And sometimes this physical abuse may even be manifested by children towards their mother when they see a father dealing with the mother in an abusive, either verbal abuse or any other. Children with narcissistic tendencies will learn that it's okay to treat their parents like this, and children with codependent tendencies will learn that this behavior is normal. It's normal and acceptable if their mothers don't show any courage to stand up for themselves, and even sometimes, if the need arises, just to leave that relationship. Remember, we're not advocating the breakup of homes, but we spoke about this previously, that the one of the primary objectives of a marriage is sakina, security. Allah Ta'ala talks about that in the Quran. That sakina, security, safe environment is an objective of marriage. And that objective of marriage is achieved by mercy, kindness. But if all of that is not that objective is not obtained, then there is absolutely no need to remain in those toxic relationships. And that is the reason, one of the reasons and the wisdoms why Allah Ta'ala has instituted the institution of divorce. So we need to be able to distinguish the relationship in a way and establish relationships in a way that are healthy. And when children see their abused going to say something more? So when children see their abused parent stay and tolerate the disrespect, they are becoming programmed to believe that this is what a good husband or wife should do. Unfortunately, when children see their abused parent tolerate the disrespect, they are programmed to believe that this is what a good husband or wife should be. Other children, however, can become very angry and upset that their parents don't stand up for themselves, and what then will happen, and they will leave. This causes them to lose respect for their parents. This causes them to lose respect for their parents and become rebellious. They become frustrated that not only are their abused parents not strong enough to fight for their rights, but are unable to fight for theirs too. And because of this, they are missing out on many things that they are being withheld from them. Only high level, emphatic children will sympathize with their parents who are being disrespected and offer them comfort. High level, emphatic children will sympathize with their partners who are being disrespected, and then these children will sometimes offer the comfort to the parents. So, as you can see, codependence, and this is in the broad discussions of codependency. So, as you can see, codependents carry many unresolved childhood issues into their adult relationships. And since humans are drawn to what's familiar to them, they don't see these issues as being dangerously problematic. If you don't know what a healthy relationship is, you'll feel that your toxic relationship is normal. If you don't know what a healthy, beautiful relationship is, you will feel that your toxic relationship is normal and healthy relationships are abnormal. So, to codependence, normal, loving relationships are sometimes alien, they are scary because they belong in an unfamiliar territory and require a high level of self love. So they subconsciously prefer to be in a toxic relationship as that becomes their comfort zone. Morana, you think we need to conclude here or we can carry on?
Now, just one message has come in. Assalamu alaikum. My daughter was married for 10 years. She paid for all the maintenance of the house, food, etc. He was caught cheating and they got divorced. He always pretended not to have money. She even paid for his medical aid. He gave her nothing. She had to start all over again. No home, no nothing. What can she do in a case like this? And she has no documents as proof.
Well, when she was doing, unfortunately or fortunately, inshallah, Allah Ta'ala will reward her for whatever she had spent. Charity begins at home. The person who has taken advantage of this will be answerable before Allah Ta'ala for that. But on her side, it's done, it's dusted. She must make dua. And Allah Ta'ala will reward her. Because according to that, they're not in a marriage relationship anymore. Am I correct, Ma?
Gee.
Yeah. So Allah Ta'ala will reward her for her generosity. And inshallah, it will be a means for her salvation on the day of Qiyamah, inshallah.
Inshallah.
So just a little more before we conclude for today. So they are subconsciously prefer to be in this toxic relationship as this becomes their comfort zone. It is better and less intimidating for them to stay in a toxic place than to make the required efforts to change who they are to be with healthy people. Codependents love that narcissists need them, and narcissists love that codependents are willing to go above and beyond to fulfill their every need in order to feel loved, in order to feel worthy, in order to feel normal, in order to feel important. However, if they are discarded by the narcissist, after they have invested so much to keep them happy, like this example that we have just been we've heard, if they are discarded by the narcissist after they have invested so much to keep them happy, that is their time, efforts, money, relationship, help, favors, gifts, giving up principles, and various sacrifices, they find themselves back in a dark abyss of depression. And therefore, I repeatedly say that when a relationship is not fulfilling the objectives of a relationship, which is sakina, which is love, which is respect, in that case, it is better to get what you need and do the things in a way that you will live a healthy relationship. What answer can we give to someone who asks, where does Allah say women have a right to speak up against a husband, even if it's wrong? Well, there are many, many instances in the ahadith where women went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and complained about their husbands, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam cautioned them and sometimes even warned them. And there is no such thing in Islam that when a woman is being abused or oppressed, she needs to keep quiet. And I think before I conclude, the concept of sabr is something that we need to understand. Sabr in Islam does not mean that you keep quiet. Sabr in Islam does not mean that you accept the abuse. Sabr in Islam means that you need to take the necessary steps to prevent yourself from the harm without causing harm to someone. That's the concept of sabr. So there's no such thing in Islam that you must accept the abuse and continue living in an abusive relationship. Jazakumullah, Marana.
Well, just before we go, there's a few comments. The first one is, it's so scary that what Marana is speaking about is so true. He had these thoughts, but Marana put into words. Wanted to mention that I've noticed that narcissistic mothers don't like fathers also disciplining their kids.
Yes.
And someone asked if they could contact Marana if they have a narcissistic partner.
Regarding that, I have mentioned previously that I am no professional counselor. If I start taking all these calls, and I won't even have time. Unfortunately, I don't have the professional ability. There are many, many professional people that you can go to, inshallah. And I think in this case, there is a need for both you and the husband to go together for the right coaching and counseling. And inshallah, through that, Allah Ta'ala will bring good in your home.
Another, Assalamu alaikum, I'm in a toxic relationship. I do not stand up for myself because I'm afraid of conflict due to a traumatic childhood. I don't want my sons to think I'm weak because I remain quiet. I think we just discussed it also now.
Gee.
And the last one, I would like to remain anonymous. Marana, please let me know if you do one-on-one consultations. I have serious problems with a narcissistic husband whom I am trying to divorce. He is using other ulama who do not understand narcissism to unfairly judge me.
Yeah, again, you can call me if you want to, but as I say that I'm not sure that I'll be able to assist. Again, I'm saying that seek professional help. Yes, there may be certain ulama that may not understand, but there are, alhamdulillah, many ulama who do understand these traits and these disorders. Jazakumullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Well, that we come to the end of today's program. Inshallah, we'll be back again next week for the last program before Ramadan, and we'll continue after Ramadan again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
The trucks have arrived and stocks are in. Yes.